Since the Second World War, the weapons of Nazi Germany have given rise to great myths and legends, many only lightly connected to historical reality or physical plausibility. The famous Tiger tank or the massive mouse have sparked massive interest amongst amateur and veteran historians alike. This phenomenon can be seen most prominently within the military modeling community, where the surplus of pieces and time removes all limits for those ensconced by the German military's real or imagined might. Naturally, many unique creations have been made, some completely disregarding any historical or technical factors, being part of a hobby for personal enjoyment and not for serious historical discourse. One such creation is the Schwerer Geschützwagen Löwe 24cm created by a German modeler in the 2000s. Over a decade later, the video game company Wargaming was looking for a German self-propelled gun to fill the spot for the Tier 10 German self-propelled gun line in their game World of Tanks. The modeler's abomination suited their needs. Welcome to another Tank Encyclopedia voiced article. I'm your host Tony, and today I'll be covering the fictional Geschützwagen E-100 tank. If you like what we do and want to see more, please consider hitting the subscribe button so you don't miss a single video. If you're already subscribed, hit the like button to claim your free cookie. If you'd like to contribute more directly, please consider donating to our Patreon or PayPal. It allows us to continue to make content of this standard. The creator of the model is Sebastian Nast, who converted and merged a Dragon Model 1235 E-100 model kit and Precision Models 24cm K4 resin kit. He did, however, make drastic changes to those parts. The Schwerer Geschützwagen Löwe is essentially a lengthened E-100 hull, with the engine moved to the middle behind the driver. The gun, a 24cm K4 SF, manned by a crew of 8, is housed inside a large open-top superstructure heavily inspired by the real Geschützwagen Grille 1721. As a matter of fact, the entire model seems to have been inspired by the Grille, being a what-if, even larger variant. Interestingly, the creator provided a short fictional history of the vehicle. Here's a translation from German. As early as 1942-43, the Army Weapons Office made a demand for heavy and very heavy self-propelled guns. By the end of 1944, the Grille self-propelled gun based on an extended Tiger IIB chassis was almost ready for serial production. The 17cm K44 and or 21cm Mercer 18 were intended as armaments. After detailed tests, it turned out, however, that these armaments did not bring satisfactory results. Therefore, at the beginning of 1945, the demand was made to install the new 24cm K4, which had been newly developed in 1944 and which had made a great impression during firing attempts in the new self-propelled gun. The Grille chassis, however, could not support this armament. It was planned that the new self-propelled gun should be based on the new E-90 E-100 chassis. Codename for this project was Hummel, Vespe. Army introduction was planned for 1946 at the latest. Due to the events of the war, however, this project did not get beyond the drawing board stage. The first preliminary studies are said to have been very promising. The modeler provided a series of images showing the SPG next to a Grille model and being loaded by a half-track with ammunition. Nast called it a historical logical reconstruction and the most probable variant if the E-100 hull would have ever been used as an SPG. You can find more images of the model and a short text by Nast himself on the model linked on our website, written in June of 2001. The model was put up for sale on eBay by seller Goldenstern114 in the summer of 2020 and sold that same October for €176. Like most such scratch builds, the Schwerer Geschützwagen is based on some form of reality. The E-100 chassis was, of course, a real thing. That was partially built and completed by Adler in January 1945 at Hauensteinbeck, where the Allies would later find it in early April 1945. The gun, the 24cm K4, was also historical, but never left the drawing board and was certainly never tested, as Nast claims. Regardless, it would have been too big to fit, even in the extended E-100 hull. There were drawings of it fitted on 3 Tiger heavy tank chassis, or on a chassis similar to the Gerät 040-041, and even then in an open fashion, similar to that of a railway gun. The K4 was to replace the K3 cannon, and in 1941 a contract was given to Rheinmetall Borsig and Group to develop the gun. It required high mobility, a projectile weight of 160 kg, and a range of 48-49 km. The barrel length was 17,280 mm or 16,000 mm. The towed piece weighed 65,500 kg when transported and 55,000 kg combat weight. Unfortunately, the precision model's resin kit does not seem to remotely resemble the plans of the real weapon. NAS enlarged the weapon, but it is still far off and looks more like the 24cm Kanone 3. There were plans to make a self-propelled assault gun out of the E-100, namely the 15-17cm Sturmgeschütz auf E-100 Fahrgestell, an extremely well-armored vehicle meant to take on heavy Allied tanks and fortifications from long range, but it never went past mock-up stage. Apart from blueprints showing the gun mantlet and mount, everything else has been lost. Judging something for more than it actually was meant to be is never a good thing, but for the sake of the argument, a quick analysis of the vehicle can show how infeasible the design would have been. Firstly, the chassis still keeps the E-100 levels of protection with a maximum thickness of 200mm and heavy side panels, completely useless considering the almost paper-thin gun housing and open top. Also, the long range of the 240mm K4 cannon would have made any armor pointless, as it would fire from far behind the front line. Nonetheless, the weight of the vehicle was still an estimated 137 tons. The engine, an unspecified 1500 horsepower Maybach V12, would have propelled the SPG at a whopping 42 km an hour, a completely exaggerated number. The E-100, weighing less than the SPG, would not have been able to reach this speed. Combined with the incredible strain on the transmission and destructive ground pressure, the vehicle would have been a mechanical disaster, unable to be produced by a struggling Germany in 1945. German heavy tanks at half this weight and less struggled mechanically, let alone something of this size. Nonetheless, the Schwerer Geschützwagen was just an interesting model, with a moderately sensible history, albeit exaggerated in its mechanical aspects. However, this is nitpicking when discussing an amateur model kit bash. Things took a weird turn when Wargaming needed a vehicle in World of Tanks to fill their top-of-the-line Tier 10 spot for German artillery. The lower tiers are filled in by historical vehicles such as the Hummel, Geschützwagen Panther or Grille 1721, but at Tier 8 and 10, Wargaming's research team seems to struggle. Thus, two fake vehicles were introduced, the Geschützwagen Tiger P and Geschützwagen E-100. While the Geschützwagen Tiger P is a lengthened Tiger P hull with the Geschützwagen Grille casemate, probably a Wargaming invention, the Geschützwagen E-100 is heavily inspired by the Schwerer Geschützwagen Löwe model. Wargaming shortened the SPG back to the regular E-100 hull size, but did keep the rear overhang and most other visual aspects of the original model, like the gun shield and camouflage net holders. They did change the other performance aspects for the game balancing. Interestingly, World of Tanks also provides a false history of the Geschützwagen E-100, however, it never mentioned it as being fake. Most importantly, the gun was changed. In the game, it now has a 21cm Mercer 18/2, a fictional name for the real 21cm Mercer 18, but with a slightly changed name to differentiate between the two, as the latter is present in lower tier vehicles. The real Mercer 18 was a replacement for the 21cm Mercer 16 from World War I. It had a weight of 16.7 tons, a range of 16,725 meters, a muzzle velocity of 550 meters per second, and a high explosive shell weighing 113 kilograms. The fictional vehicle can carry 30 rounds. There is an openable port on the front of the superstructure, which is probably meant to allow the use of a direct fire sight. A large gun crutch is present at the front of the top of the hull. The engine and other performance indicators were also changed, the engine being a Maybach HL234 TRM P45 with a 900 horsepower output. This was a real engine that was hoped to reach up to 1200 horsepower, so this variant is in line with historical reality, as the project failed to reach the desired engine power. The engine has been moved from its rear position to the center of the vehicle, similar to the Jagdpanzer E-100 vehicle from World of Tanks. This was a common change for German artillery SPG, also being a feature of the Hummel, Wespe and Grille Ausführung M. The transmission remained at the front as on the regular E-100. The exhausts were moved to the front of the superstructure, an interesting location. In-game, the Geschützwagen E-100 can reach a theoretical top speed of 40 km per hour, again probably over-optimistic for the transmission, suspension and engine, although the vehicle usually drives at much lower speeds. The weight is 87 tons, giving it a horsepower-to-ton ratio of 10.34, with a well-armored hull, 80mm at the front, 50mm at the sides and 40mm at the rear. This is significantly less than on the real E-100 tank hull, which had 200mm of angled armor at the front, 120mm at the side and 155mm at the rear. So this fake SPG version would have been based on a new build chassis, not on the already built E-100 hull from Adler. There are 60mm thick armored skirts on the sides, originally designed for the E-100. This significantly improved the protection over the sides and tracks, which were otherwise rather thin, at least compared to the rest of the tank, and flat. However, these are notably useless for a long-range artillery SPG and would represent dead weight. They were probably added in because they are a distinctive part of the E-100 look, and not for historical purposes. 2 tow hooks are present on the front of the hull and another 2 at the rear. The crew also dropped to 6, with the driver and radio operator in a different compartment in the front of the vehicle, separated from the fighting compartment by the engine. The driver has a single periscope pointing towards the front, right in front of his hatch. There was no whole machine gun on the E-100 or on this vehicle. A single no-tech lamp is placed at the middle of the front glacis. The rest of the crew is placed in the rear superstructure, which they can access through a double door at the rear, which would probably have been kept open during firing in order to allow ammunition resupply from ammunition half tracks. Ultimately, Wargaming never has and most likely never will replace the Geschützwagen E-100 or the lower-tier fake Geschützwagen Tiger P because of the controversy surrounding self-propelled guns within World of Tanks. Starting off as a typical model scratch built by a modeler, the Geschützwagen E-100 has become an iconic fake tank due to its almost decade-long existence within World of Tanks, even though it is a more innocent fake. It is still a fabrication that is here to stay because of Wargaming's satisfaction with how it fits into the German artillery line and their lackluster care and attention to historical realism, especially nowadays when entire tech tree lines are falsifications. This concludes our look at the Geschützwagen E-100. If you like what we do and want to see more, remember to subscribe so you don't miss out on a single video. If you want to contribute more directly, consider donating on Patreon or PayPal, or joining our channel's membership. It helps keep the lights on and allows us to improve the quality of our videos. Until next time, keep us in your sights.